Nikita. In today's session, we are going to look upon AWS rules and uses. So basically, this is my AWS console home, and I am the root user of this account. But how to find out whether you are the root user or not? I'll tell you how. If you just look upon the top right of my screen under the username, you will find the account ID which is only available for the root user, as well as many other options such as account organization, service quotas, billing and cost management, security credentials, sign out. You can find out these options in non-root user account as well. But one key point you have to remember is for the root user account, you won't get the option to switching rule. So yeah, this is the thing about the root user. This is a simple architecture on IAM user and root account. Basically, what is a root account? Root account can manage the IAM permission like which user needs to access which resources. So it's pretty much like controlling the permissions of your whole AWS account. It can control the billing. So if you are using AWS account for a company, then you might need to associate some credit card for your billing account so that a billing can happen and you can use your AWS services continuously. It can control the billing as well as it can control all the resources and the permissions associated with those resources. So this root account has access to everything inside your AWS account. All right. Now, talking more specifically about the IAM user, this is my root account. Now, what we are going to do is we are just going to create a IAM user. So here we are going to name our user as a test user. And this user have a very limited permission. So when we are going to create this particular test user, during that time, this test user will not have permission to view any of those resources. This is the first thing we are going to do. Secondly, we are going to create some policies. These policies are governing the access to the resources. In AWS, we have so many resources, and to control those resources, we need to define the IAM policies. So, here we are just going to allow access the S3 bucket. S3 bucket is a storage where we put our files, our configurations, or like media file, anything which is big in size, you can store it onto your S3 bucket. Uh, and this about these policies, this is a very simple use case which explains how IAM users are created and how the IAM policies like permissions are assigned to these particular users. Let's get started by creating IAM user. Go to the search bar, type IAM, hit enter. You will get into a IAM console. In the dashboard, select users. These are a few of the users I had created for the projects. Let's ignore it and create a new user. I'm going to keep it as test user. Provide user access to the AWS Management Console, which is optional. Let's enable this later. Click on next. Select user to the group. Then click on next. These are the details which we have chosen to create this user. Create. Next, click on the create user. So yes, you can see that our user has been created. Now let's go into the user. First, you need to be careful over here is the ARN. So this is a resource ID which is always unique for any resources which you are going to create inside the AWS. So for this user, this is going to be the ARN. If you create an EC2 instance or S3 bucket or any other resources in AWS, then it will always grant you an ARN. So this particular ARN belongs to this test user. So this is a key information you need to keep in mind. Now you might be wondering that we have created this test user, but I'm still logged in as Nikita. So how can I log in with our test user? Yes, that is also possible. What you need to do once you create this user is go to the security credentials and then enable console access. Here it is showing two options. One is auto generated password and second is custom password. Custom password is what you set that password as, and auto generated password is what AWS gives us. I'm going with auto generated password. User must create a new password at the sign in, which I don't want it to be. So I'll just go and enable console access. So let's just secure these important credentials wherever you want. Okay, let's log in to the new tab. Here the account ID is pre-filled by AWS only. Username, let's go and copy the username. Okay, password also let me copy. And then let's log in. Yes, we have successfully logged in as a IAM user. If you just look upon the top right of my screen, here it's showing as a test user with the root account ID. Yes, this is what I was talking about. It shows IAM user with the username. You can see all the options we had seen in the root account, but this switch role option was not available for the root account. So yes, this is the main difference between the IAM user and the root user. So let us try to create an S3 bucket if we are able to uh, successfully create the S3 bucket or not. Let's see. Create bucket. Then let's name it as test demo S3. Lock all public access. Let me acknowledge it. Then create bucket. Okay, already exists. So yes, now we'll try to access. Yeah, you can see here that failed to create bucket. To create a bucket, there's three create bucket permission is required. Here, although we have created a test user, we have not yet assigned permission to it. As soon as you create a test user, IAM user in AWS by default doesn't provide any access to that particular user. Hence, you need to create permission policies so that user can access any specific resource or that particular service. So let's go back to the main account. Yes, so I am in my root account now. In the dashboard, go to the policies and then click on these are the default policies which have been created by the AWS, but I'm not gonna use any of this, so I'll just create my own. So click on create policy, go to the JSON. I have a script with me, so I'll just copy paste it, which allows the access for the S3 bucket. I'll copy it and then paste it here. Next, click on next. Then we are going to name it as demo test user. Description allow access. Yeah, you can see here the access level is full access with all the resources. So I'll click on create policy. So yes, you can see that a policy has been created. Now go to the users, click on the created user, and then in permissions, although we have created the policy, we need to attach that policy and give permission for the test user to access this S3 bucket. So I'll just click on add permissions, then I'll select attach policies directly. Here we are going to search for the policy which we created earlier. So the policy I created was, yeah, this was a policy we have created. So I'll just select it and then click on next. So here is the details of the permissions we have created. Now I'll click on add permissions. Yes, you can see here that the permission is being accessed to that user. Now let's try to access through the test user. I'll copy the URL of the test user and then hit enter. This account ID is the pre-filled one. Test user. Password, let me again copy it. Okay. Then I'll sign in. So yes, we are in our test user account. I'll go to the S3 bucket. Okay. Now I'll click on create bucket. I'll name it as test user S3. I've just kept a random name. I'll uncheck this block all public access. I'll check this and then click on create bucket. So yes, you can see that now we are able to create a bucket since we had allowed that permission to have access. So yes, this is how we create IAM user, then attach policy to it. The next concept which I'm going to talk about is the groups. You can also create a group, and inside that group, multiple you can create multiple users, and that is also quite useful feature. Here again, I'm using root account, and that root account is going to create the uh, demo user multiple groups. That is, we are going to name it as demo groups. So I'm just taking very hypothetical example here, but in real time scenario, you might have multiple users into your organization, and you can divide those users in terms of groups. So one group can have like developers group, another group can have a tester group, and another one group can be product specialists or account manager. So these are few example where you can create a group and assign users inside that particular group. Previously, we had created a test user without any group, but here I'm going to create a demo group, and inside that I'll create a user which is a test user, and then we will assign a policy. Previously we have assigned a policy to test user, but this time we will assign a policy to the group, so that any user which is present inside that group has a permission we have created. So instead of creating these permissions specifically to users, we can just create uh, on group level, and by default, the users which are present could inherit those permissions. So, yes. Now let's go back to our console and get get it on with. Now I'm in my AWS console again. So let's go to the IAM console. In the dashboard, before moving into the user groups, let's go back to the users, go into the created user, and let's remove the policy which we had attached earlier. Now let's go to the user groups and create the group user. We'll name it as demo group. Then we'll just create it. So here you can see that a demo group has been created, but no users have been attached inside this group, as well as no permissions have been defined. So what we have to do now is attach a user and then try to access this any of the resources from the test user. Yeah, so let's click on the created group, then we'll add users. Test user is what we had created earlier, so let's add that, and then click on permissions. I'll try to add the permission which we had created earlier as well. Permission was demo test user. Yes. Actually, the name doesn't matter because we can reuse how much ever time we can. So yes, I'll select it and attach policy. Yeah, now you can see that we have created all the procedures. Let's go back to the test user, security credentials, copy the link here, and then let's try accessing it. Test user. I have to go back to my notepad and get my password. So I'll paste it here now. Yes. Let's go to the security S3 bucket, and then let's try creating one demo group 1. Let's uncheck this, block all public access, check here, and then click on create bucket. So yes, we were successfully able to access the S3 bucket. So yeah, this is all we learned in today's video. How to create a IAM user through a root account, then adding a policy to it, access any of the resources, then how to create a user groups, attaching the user and policy to that user group, and this shows how to control resources and users in a group level as well. So yeah, this is all about today's video. Thank you so much for watching.